Hi, I'm Michael Skelly, one of the creators of Stacker, and I'm going to tell you how 3 techniques from programming can help us in no-code. Here in the no-code community, there is a bit of suspicion towards programming languages. After all, isn't the movement all about removing our need for them? Today, I'd like to take you through some of the hardest problems that we're facing as users and creators of no-code tools, and how we can look to concepts from programming to help us solve them. There are 3 core problems that many of you will face when building with no code, which I affectionately like to call the Lego bricks problem, the behind the TV problem, and the back of the magazine problem. First one I want to look at is the Lego brick problem. Lego is great. Those small, colorful blocks are really simple to piece together, and you feel like you can build anything your imagination can come up with. You start out building a few small things like a miniature racing car or a toy pirate ship. It feels great. And then you think, I'm getting really good at building with Lego. It's empowering and lets me build anything. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to buy a plot of land and build my dream home out of Lego. And that's where your trouble starts. Because precisely the thing that makes Lego great, the fact that it's made of these tiny pieces that you can easily click together to make intricate models, that makes it really difficult to build anything big. Building with no code is like building with Lego bricks. It's really easy to get started building things, but it's very tricky to build a whole house. As an aside, I'm going to be using the phrase Lego bricks. I understand that Americans call these Legos. As a European, that sounds weird, and as someone who used to work for Lego, I can tell you that they agree. So, building big things with tiny bricks is hard. What if we made the bricks bigger? Well, some tools do. There are tools that let you build your app or your site by selecting from a few big bricks that give you a lot of functionality. Let's take website builders as an example. Let's say that Webflow is made of little bricks. The Lego bricks of Webflow are a text box or a button or a container. In that case, we can say that something like Squarespace is big bricks. The Lego bricks of Squarespace are things like picture gallery, reservations, checkout. This means that you can get something big, like a whole site, running much faster than you can in Webflow. Sounds great, right? Well, that comes at a cost. Because your bricks are so big, and because you use so few of them to make your app, there is only a limited number of ways to arrange them. Outside of changing the styles or the content, it's very, very hard to do something that's different from all the other sites. If you want to make your own photo gallery that's completely different from how theirs works, you can't. Right now, with no-code tools, you have to choose the size of your bricks. Either you can use really big bricks, which let you build things fast, but have little ability to customize, or you can use small bricks, which give you full control and flexibility, but take much longer to assemble and are much more fragile. So, how can we look to a concept from programming to help us deal with the Lego brick problem? The technique we can borrow from programming to help this is called composition. The basic idea is to use the small bricks to build bigger ones. You can then use the bigger ones to build large and complex things quickly and easily. And because those big bricks are still made of small Lego bricks, you can take them apart and change how they work to fit your specific needs. And just in case you're thinking this is an elaborate metaphor, preparing this talk, I actually did my research to see if someone had actually tried to build a house out of Lego. And it turns out that someone did. They built a working house with a bed, a flushing toilet, with hot showers, and even a key made of Lego. And how did they do it? They first built the Lego into larger bricks, like the ones you can see on the right, and they used that to build the house. Okay, so we've got this problem, and we understand the solution. Is there anyone currently doing this well? I think Webflow and Figma are great examples of no-code tools that let you use composition to help get around the Lego brick problem. You can make something out of small bricks, like a page header or user profile card, and then turn that into a big brick that can be reused across your site. In Webflow, this is called a symbol. And in Figma, it's called a component. That new brick you've made can be used alongside the default ones. But because it's built of smaller bricks, you can at any point take it apart and change how it works. So that's the Lego brick problem. The next problem I want to talk about is one that I call the mess behind the TV. Picture this. It's the 90s. You get a brand new TV. This is a fantastic addition to your living room. It gets even better when you buy a cable box to access hundreds of new channels. You connect the SCART lead from the cable box to the back of the TV. Then you get a VHS to record your favorite shows. Now you have to unplug the SCART from the cable box and plug that into the VHS, and then from the VHS to the TV. No big deal. Then you get a PlayStation, and another wire is added. Later you swap the VHS for a TiVo, and you do some more plugging and unplugging. At some point you swap from SCART cables to HDMI. And so it goes on, swapping wires, twisting them over and under each other, daisy-chaining devices together, until one day you come to add your newest device, you look behind your TV, and you realize that you've just got a jumble of cables that you don't understand. What's worse, you've got no idea how to change something without breaking everything else. This is something that I think a lot of you will be familiar with. It's something that happens to nearly every no-code project after a while. They become a spaghetti mess of tools wired together with all sorts of conditions and triggers. They're perfectly tuned and ingeniously rigged like a Rube Goldberg machine, but also equally fragile. What's worse is that you can't go in and fix it because you don't know whether your fix is actually going to break something in a completely different part of the app. So how can we look to a concept from programming to help here? The concept that we can use here is one called modularity. The basic idea of modularity: separate out the different parts of your app into discrete areas with well-defined boundaries, called modules. You don't need to understand what's going on inside each module. As long as the module is doing its job and interacting with all the other modules, then you can understand the whole system. It also means that the changes within the module shouldn't affect the rest of the system. This lets you do any rewiring you like inside the module without worrying that you'll break something somewhere else. This is especially good if lots of people are working on the same thing at once. So, which tools have embraced modularity? At Stacker, we let people build a whole system of connected apps to power their business. Since each of these apps can be built by an entirely different team, we've had to embrace modularity to make sure that no team can break a different team's app. That means we've been able to help companies run a full operational system with a customer portal built by their success team, connected to a CRM built by their sales team, linked to a planning app built by their finance team, and all of those teams are able to make changes to their apps as their processes evolve. That means that Stacker works for individual teams and small businesses, and it still works for large organizations like Adobe, Twilio, and Samsung. Salesforce have taken this idea even further, and they actually let you write some tests to say how a particular part of the system should work. These tests get run whenever someone makes a change and warns that user that they may have broken some important functionality. Now, this is currently only accessible by writing those tests using code. But I think we should expect to see more platforms making something like that possible. We now come to our final problem. I call this the back of the magazine problem. And we're going to go even further back in time for this analogy. Back in the 70s, before the days of app stores or even AOL CDs, the way that you got software that other people had written was through magazines. You'd buy a Commodore 64 Enthusiast magazine, and on the back page was a densely printed page of code that someone else had written. And so you booted up your Commodore 64 with the magazine propped off to one side and carefully typed in the whole program and pressed run, hoping that you'd not made a typo somewhere. This is the state of sharing in no code right now. There are hundreds of sites with tutorials for everything from automating your calendar to building the next Airbnb. And they all work exactly the same as those printed magazine listings in the back of those enthusiast magazines. You find a tutorial that has something similar to what you're interested in, and with the tutorial in a browser window off to the side, you carefully recreate it in your no-code tool of choice and then press run, hoping that you've followed all the steps correctly. In 2021, this feels crazy. Software is meant to be infinitely replicable for free. There must be an easier way than this. The final technique I want to share with you from the world of programming is sharing and remixing. Most of you have probably heard of GitHub. GitHub is the world's largest repository of open source software code. If a programmer is looking to achieve a particular goal, like displaying locations on a map or sorting a list of numbers by size, they don't have to go rifling through their coding magazines and then carefully type the instructions into their keyboard. They can find some pre-written code that another user has uploaded and then immediately add it to their app with a couple of clicks. Even better, if that code gets updated by its original author, anyone using it can update their copy as well to get any new features that have been added. So, where in the no-code universe can we find something like this? Both Airtable and Zapier have done a really great job of letting people share what they've built in a way that other people can easily use and remix in their own projects. Airtable has their Airtable universe of bases, and Zapier has a library of zaps for every occasion and data source. So, there we have it. 3 hard problems facing no-code tools today, and 3 techniques from programming that we can lean on to help us solve them. So, if you feel like you've been trying to build a house out of Lego bricks, look to composition to build the bigger bricks out of the small ones. If you're facing a no-code project that looks like a mess of cables behind a TV, try separating things out into self-contained modules. And if you find yourself clicking along to tutorials, find a tool that lets you share and remix work from other people. That's it. You can find me on social media as @Skelly Studios. And if you're interested in helping us build a no-code tool that's composable, modular, and shareable, go to stackerhq.com, where we're hiring talented, curious people in a wide range of roles. Thank you.